Yeah, good morning, everybody. And I guess the regular season came to a close yesterday for the Big 12, and we move on to the next portion. I kind of was using the close the chapter, and so now we open up the new chapter now that the last one is closed. We were waiting on the results yesterday to kind of get seeding and opponents and those types of things. So obviously the one result got us to the double bye, which is good for our kids, good opportunity for us, but only good if you take advantage of it. And so then we'll await a couple of games to figure out who we play. But excited for our group to go to Kansas City, catch our breath here today a little bit, and then kind of get back at it a little bit more tomorrow. It's tricky this time of year. You've had an opponent to prepare for pretty routinely, and now you don't know, and so you kind of get to focus on yourself again here a little bit for a couple days. And so we will do that and get rested and focus on us and find some areas that we know we need to get better at as we move forward. But hopefully we've got some few basketball games left in us over the weekend in Kansas City, but we're excited to go play.
I guess the first thing you look at is you're playing really well right now in the last two games. So you want to play, you want to stay sharp, but then you also are at the end of the year and you want to maybe get your girls off their feet a little bit and rest them. You kind of balance that a little bit between being sharp and giving them the rest?
You do. So we'll rest a little more and then, just be competitive in practices earlier in the week to keep that form, keep your identity, keep that kind of competitive nature. Once we get to Thursday and we play early Friday at 11, so we'll be more of probably a prep day for whomever that opponent is. So we'll practice after we find out who we play on Thursday. But until then, it's rest. But you want to keep the rhythm and you want to keep a ball in their hand a little bit. You don't want to take too much time off where they lose a little bit of that. Keep our identity and keep moving forward.
How do you get a team to peak? Do you ever get any advice on all the years you've done this, how you get a team to play their best at the most important time of the year?
I don't know if there's any magic formula to it. I mean, stay healthy is one. Feel good. I just think this time of year, for me, it's to make sure they're mentally and physically fresh every time we take the floor. And so if we can do that, then I think you got a great chance at it. We still know defensively most nights that can kind of keep us in about every game. And then offensively, can we keep going? Obviously, JJ's on a little bit of a heater right now and playing really well. And both Jordans had a good night, at Cincinnati. But we need to get Shaw going again and Kaya going again and Kylie. So we still need some to, that we're going to need them. And when you're talking about tournaments or potentially 3 games in 3 days, you need your full roster to help produce and stay involved. And so we'll continue to work through that this week.
Big 12 has had a couple of different tournament formats, and I'm sure you've been through different ones in your previous stops. Do you have a favorite, preferred format for postseason tournament, and how much break you get before the NCAA start?
I think it depends on which league you're in, where your team's at. And the previous stops for me was the mid-major level, and so everything came down to the conference tournaments. You were playing for one weekend, and you had single buys, double buys that took you into the semifinals, so you're just having to win two. So I think it's all relative at this level. It's, I think, a little different based on where your team currently sits based on the NCAA tournament. So some teams need to make runs. Some teams have to win it to get in the NCAA tournament. Other teams probably know they're in but need seed lines for the NCAA tournament. So there's still a ton going into it. I mean, this one seems to be okay. I do think you want to reward in some degree what was happened in the regular season. Now we're also in these leagues, though, where you don't play everybody multiple times. So how are the seedings even overly accurate? I don't know. So to answer your question, I'm not sure that I have the perfect answer. It is what it is at this point. I think most leagues, it seems like, that have around 16 teams do something similar. I think when you're asked to win 5 games in 5 days or 4 in 4 days, that's a tall task. 3 in 3 days, maybe a little more manageable.
What's your take on JJ's play of late? Is it just because it's late in the year, maybe she's sensing, to step up, or is there more to it?
No, I don't think there's anything more to it. I think we know she's been capable of this. To put back-to-back games together is really special right now. But yeah, I think seniors start to look at things a little differently as their senior year goes on and they get to this point where they realize, the days are numbered, the games are numbered, I guess. When it was at home that way, I don't think JJ set out to go do anything special that night. She just took what the game gave her. Same thing at Cincinnati. She just, they were playing a lot of zone, and she was just finding gaps and creases. And I think our kids know that she's kind of in that proverbial zone, so just kind of let her keep going a little bit while she is. And when it's time to move it and share it, she's been able to do that because she finished with 7 assists in that game, and 7 rebounds. So I think as much as I was happy with the 31 points, I think it was those other 2 stat lines that made me just as happy.
Did she pull back in the second half as far as shooting goes in both those games? Or, what is she capable of if she says, give me the ball?
Yeah, at Cincinnati, maybe a little bit. Utah, the second half is when she kind of started going. She had 24, I think, at half against Cincinnati. So a little bit there. I don't know if she pulled back. It just wasn't required of her. We had a lead. We didn't have to use the press as much, so we could kind of back off of that just a hair and control tempo a little bit more. So yeah, is she, I don't know, is she capable of going for 31, 38 every single night? I don't know. But you ride the hot hand when you have it, and she's had it last week, and hopefully she can continue that into the tournament.
On the men's side, Javon Small has gotten a lot of attention, obviously, a lot of doubles, about every different kind of look that you can get. Has JJ, I don't know how much you're able to compare, obviously, but has JJ gotten as many of those things, or has she just been so good that she's been able to overcome whatever the other team's thrown at her?
Yeah, she's pretty talented, and she's just a hard guard too because of her quickness. But we play her on the ball, off the ball. With her and Jordan, if you take one away, then there's still another option and a few more too that can score it for us. And when Jordan Thomas comes in, what she can do on the inside. So, I imagine JJ's going to continue to get a bunch of attention. But again, you can try to trap her, but she's so quick that she can either get around it or get through it. And now you're playing 5-on-4 with a pretty dynamic kid with the ball. So she's just a really hard kid to do that with most nights.
The aggressive version of your press, have you had to use it in a while, or it just seems like the press hasn't been as active lately as maybe what it was earlier in the year? Or I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I would probably disagree with that a little bit. I guess if you're at the Utah game, I don't remember how many turnovers they had, but there was quite a few of them. I thought the press dictated just about the whole game. At Cincinnati in the first half, it was fine. That's what helped us get the 14-point lead. We backed off of it a little bit, but that's by design because you're up 20. We're not trying to necessarily shorten possessions. We want to elongate possessions. And so, time and score dictates that a little bit. But no, we're still, that's our identity, and it has been most of the year.
What led you to decide to play that brand of basketball as compared to trying to go out and get a couple of 6'3" girls or whatever it would be?
Yeah, well, it never had anything to do with size. It was just more of roster limitation way back in the day, and we started it by slowing teams down, and it was just to take time off the clock because we didn't have any depth, and we didn't think we could guard for a full shot clock, and this was years ago. And then as we've gotten more talented, deeper, quicker, better athletes, then now we've just been able to turn up the heat a little bit and be disruptive.
Did you battle it up on anything that you had seen, or did you devise the way you were going to do it yourself? Or?
Yeah, no, just trial and error. That was the beauty of being a Division II guy for a long time, is no one was really paying attention. We didn't do press conferences. We didn't do this type of stuff. I was just trying to figure it out, on my own, and had really good teams and great players and won a lot of games doing it. And it just kind of evolved, from there.
Mark, the hope is you can play 3 games in 3 days. Does the experience of doing that over Thanksgiving kind of help now? What are the keys to being able to get a team ready for a game, both physically and film roll-wise in a short prep?
Yeah, that's the idea by playing in that tournament. As you know, that's coming up, obviously, in the Big 12. Not 3 games in 3 days in the NCAA tournament, but definitely 2. So we'll draw on that experience if we're lucky enough to play 3 in 3 days. But yeah, you just win one, and then you go worry about the next one, though, because you're not guaranteed 2 or 3, so there's no sense in really looking too far ahead. But if we do, yes, we have some experience to draw off of, and that will be valuable.
Looks to me, going back to the press, it looks to me like the girls seem to enjoy that maybe more than maybe other teams do when they're just playing normal defense. Does that add, you think, to the attraction of it?
Yeah, well, the kids have bought into enjoying it, right? Because they see the benefit and they reap the rewards, and the guards are out in front and they can get some easy layups and steals and touches, and then I think it just filters or snowballs through your team, and you see a couple of kids doing it. Well, you don't have a choice now. You want to get involved in that because it looks fun, and so then it filters through the whole team, and it's our identity. And I think it starts with Jordan and JJ. It did when I got here. Those are two kids that play both ways. They play on the offensive end and they play on the defensive end. And again, I've said this numerous times. I don't want to just be defined by the press. I want to be defined by being a really good basketball team, and that being on the offensive end and the defensive end. But certainly the defense and the press starts it.
If you see 100 recruits, how many of them would you say percentage, or just how many of 100 would be percentage, are capable of playing in the press that you use?
Well, probably more than you think. Some of them don't know it yet. We may see it and they don't necessarily know yet. And most high school kids don't play at the speed that they're going to have to play at here. So it's always an adjustment period. If you're talking about those types of kids, the transfers or portal kids, some are already bought in or maybe play in that system. Others, just want to play on a winning team and like what we do, and it looks fun and we share it and move it. And lots of people get steals, and that's kind of a fun thing. So probably more than you think. I don't know out of 100 how many, but between what we think they're capable of and maybe some that already do, it's a decent amount.
And is there a personality that fits it? Because it seems like, for example, Jordan and JJ are totally different personalities, yet they both seem to like what they're doing there.
Yeah, I think you can have the, like elite on-ball defenders like the two of them are. You can have like the free safety type defenders that may not be as good on the ball, but they're so good at the anticipation. They can read shoulders, would be like reading a quarterback's eyes, type. You have that, and then you've got your bigs in the back, and some are better. Kylie does it differently than Jordan Thomas does when she's back there, but they all have value. And so we can mix and match it enough to find the value if you have an ability to defend, and then we got to get them to buy into wanting to do that. But yeah, there's different ways to go about it.
Coach, how does this point of year, if it does feel any different, how does it feel different in year two for you?
Well, just more of the known. I know what I'm going to in Kansas City. I hadn't been to that tournament, had no idea what it looked like, where we played, where we stayed. I think every time you go through it, you just feel a little more comfortable. So that's what it is. We were talking about the selection show and what we're going to do for that. And last year, I didn't know what in the world what we were doing, where we were having it. Now we have a little bit of an idea. So that's the biggest difference. If seeds holds, we'll play Kansas State again, which we did a year ago. So there's just things that are happening that I think we're just, because we've been here, it feels different, feels a little better.
3 years ago, when you go into Monday of your conference tournament for survival, if you don't win, you're done. And now you're thinking about enhancing your resume. It's a different mindset for you, isn't it?
It is a completely different mindset. I was even messaging with one of my former assistants who's a mid-major head coach, and they're getting ready. They'll start theirs next week. And I was telling her, I was like, this is it's such a different feel for me now than it was at the mid-major level. But you're still trying to enhance there. You had to win to get into the NCAA tournament. Here it's seedings. It's, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to host or not, but if we go win 3, that may give us a ballpark. So you're talking about that, or at least you're talking a seed line here or there, which makes a huge difference in opportunities to advance in the NCAA tournament. So different feel, still fun. The excitement is still there. That doesn't change. You still have that, when you're coming into these weeks, you get a bracket, and we're going to go hand the kids the bracket today. And I think anytime you see a bracket, that, there's a level of excitement to that. So we'll be fired up. We'll be jacked up to play. Not any different probably at any level, but I'm telling you, the pressure at that mid-major level, and we've talked about this in here a couple times, but is at a whole nother level when you get into your conference tournament.
You have to shelter your kids from it. Obviously, you don't want them playing tense and uptight, and they have to perform. Whereas now, that there's other things beyond this.
Yeah, it feels different. You approach it maybe a hair differently. You didn't want those kids to overreact to it and get too tight, knowing what it was, because it was that way for every team, and that's the hard part. Is those. If there's 8 teams in the conference tournament, every one of them has the same thing has to happen for all 8. Here, there's all sorts of different things going on for these 16 teams that are in the Big 12 tournament. Some that know they have to advance and maybe win 5 games or 4 games to get into an NCAA tournament. Some that probably feel maybe are on the bubble. Some that feel that they're in. Others are fighting for hosting rights and seeding. So either way, there's a ton to play for, but it's certainly different based on where you're at.
If the seeds hold, either way, you were going to play Kansas State, either as the 4 or the 5. So basically, you're just talking about the color of uniforms, basically. So now they're going to get that game the day before. Does that? I mean, which do you prefer? I mean, that maybe have that game against the lower seed the day before, then face K-State, or coming in with more rest facing K-State, I guess.
I guess more rest, because that's where we're at. Because that's the situation we got. No, I think it's hard, obviously much more difficult to win 4 games once you get to the back end of it if you can get there. So that's the big time advantage. I've always said after the first quarter, we should be perfectly fine. They, like coming out, they'll have played the night before. I think we actually only even get like a 35-minute shoot around at 6:50 in the morning is our only time to even go in the building, other than the warm up, before the game. So there's like a few little nuances like that are different. But no, I think you can't lose if you don't play.
Right. Sure.
So like while those other teams are playing, we're resting, getting ready, preparing, getting our mind right, getting body right. So I think you have to take it as the advantage. You want the double buys. As you move forward, you definitely want them. But you're going to get a team that's played a little bit, obviously, in that building. If the seeds hold, then it's just one game. If it's not, then we're going to get somebody on their 3rd game in 3 days.
I'll put you on the spot in this one. Would you rather have the tournament in the Muni, your own building, a little bit more spread out? You can get used to more because it's been there in past years. Seems like that was really good, from the women's side.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually played when I was in the MIAA years ago, Division II, we played in the Municipal Coliseum. I have never been a part of it in the Big 12, so I don't know what that was like. I mean, I don't know that the players would. I think they enjoy playing in T-Mobile. I think they like that atmosphere. It feels, like a true conference tournament. But we lose like the fans that could come and maybe go watch the women play one day and the men the next or same day. I think, right, that was a crossover type situation. And so I think you lose that. So that's what I guess would be the hindrance to it, or what I wouldn't like as much. I think there would be some people that would come, maybe a few more that would watch us if the men were somewhere around, as opposed to just us being a week in front of them.
You lost 2 teams to the SEC. They're in the top, 12 in the net or 15 or whatnot. But yet you had 3 teams this year in the top 11, and I think 6 in the top 25. Do you like where the Big 12's trending?
Yeah, it's really competitive. I think it's as competitive it was a year ago. I said this earlier. We didn't have quite as good of a non-conference, though, as we probably needed to, and I think that's hurting us a little bit right now. But I think, TCU obviously has been fantastic. Baylor's been as hot as any team, in the country. K-State with their injuries, but Oklahoma State's had a fantastic year. I mean, I think Utah's a fantastic basketball team who beat Notre Dame earlier.
Nice win, right?
Yeah, I mean, TCU had it too. TCU beat Notre Dame and North Carolina State, so those, and then the Utah win over Notre Dame. So those were top wins. So I think it's been a really, really, really good year for the Big 12. I think we missed a little bit in the non-conference, and that would be us and our Texas game and some of those that we had opportunities and just weren't quite capable of taking advantage of it at the level that we wanted to maybe even get a few more teams. Maybe there, can we get to 8 or 9? I don't know. It looks like 7's going to be the number, but if we could get to 8 or 9 now, we're doing something really special.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.